everybody.
And we're in.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello there. Hello. This is... What's the name of it again?
True to Death.
True to Death. Yeah.
I was just going to let it sweat
Forgive
for a
my
little bit
brain
longer.
fart moment. Yeah, I did actually, picture it in your heads. I did actually look nervous, even though you can make up what I look like. If you don't know me, you can just go, okay, she looks like this. And
Eventually they'll see pictures, but
oh
yeah.
my gosh.
I imagine.
I feel sorry for you in advance then. What was I going to say? Yes, we
Can't help the internet, Scott.
We are True to Death, and yeah.
And I'm Anna.
And I'm Sarah, and we have our tech guy on the mic.
We do. Well, he doesn't actually have a mic.
He doesn't have
he's
the mic.
not on the mic.
He's sorting the equipment out. Yeah, we have our tech guys. You want to say hello?
No.
We have our tech guy, No, in the house. We are here today relating true crimes, basically. And the interesting thing about our podcast is we like to think the dynamic is just slightly different because Anna and I are both cousins who have mixed heritage. So we have Portuguese parents, and whereas when I was born, my parents had spent a lot of time in England already. So I was born here. Anna was born and raised in Portugal and then moved over here about 20 years ago.
Still 20 years ago. It's gonna be 20 next year, but we're basically there.
Yeah.
We're getting
go
into
by,
Christmas,
man. Yeah, we are. And before we go,
we're not, because this is actually starting after January, so
yes, but
ignore that.
At the time of recording, we're heading towards Christmas, and I have to say the real crime out there at the moment I'd like to discuss as part of our intro is some of the really, really crappy Christmas music that gets played in the shops because they can't
I knew you were going
afford
to say Christmas music.
real Christmas music. You don't get any of the hits. No, there's no Mariah going on in your local
You're kidding.
Sainsbury's. Oh, no. No. So I worked in a supermarket last year. I'm not going to name names, but I worked in a supermarket last year. And long story short, where they bought one of these, I'm going to call it Hallmark Channel style tapes of music, they had a song on that was not as well known, but I kid you not, I am halfway through doing my work for the morning and I hear this child voice ring out going, I want a hippopotamus for Christmas. and I look at my colleague and go, does she just ask for does she mean hungry hippos? Hungry hippos? No. She wants...
No, it's a hippopotamus.
She wants
she wants a hippo.
She's singing it like a child performer from a 30s play.
That is an awesome request.
You could ride a hippo into battle. You know how much jaw strength those things have?
Oh my gosh, they would slaughter everything.
Is it hippos that profusely hate humans?
They are. They are the most aggressive animal on the planet.
Oh, dude,
Yeah.
They are. Imagine looking that
They look
chunky
so cute.
and being the most.
Just filled with hate. Sounds like me on a Monday morning.
That sounds like me most mornings. But imagine this is the stuff a super soldier is made of. You look ridiculously cute, yet you could slaughter entire army units in minutes.
They're building humans like that as we speak.
They have videos on YouTube of little charter boats going past on rivers, and then the hippos just charge after them, and you're like, no.
You know how fast they can run underwater? They're so dense that
Yeah.
they can sprint.
But
Yeah.
I didn't think
rather
they
they
could
swam.
power through the water because am I right? They can swim.
No, they literally just walk on the bank.
There's one where this hippo, he must be running then, because there's one where I've seen this hippo charges after this boat and he is going at such speed. I thought the boat itself was going fast, but he's closing on this boat and his jaws opening. I'm like, no, okay. Either this is AI or that is the most frightening animal I've ever seen in my life. So,
On a different note,
No, hippos cannot swim. Their bodies are too dense and heavy, so they sink and must walk and run across.
that's why
hell
you
no.
just see the top of their heads, because they're basically wading through shallow shallow water.
But you know, like with crocodiles and things like that, they rely on stealth. Even with sharks, to an element, they rely on stealth. And yet these hippos are bored ass, just like, hey, you're in my neck of the woods now, player.
Yeah, pretty much.
Rely on like short bursts of speed.
Yeah, but like, I think with a shark, you kind of look at it and you go, you really are in their environment.
Yeah,
For
you are.
I know they can hunt in shallow water, but essentially,
they're also not as aggressive towards humans.
But with
Hippos
hippos,
do like the snoot boop. That makes them placid.
what hippos?
No,
you're getting your arm ripped off. Like
I was dealing with sharks, so I just spin.
I've seen them do that thing where they
spin a shark.
they stick their hand out and bop them on the nose.
Yeah.
And you're like, no, that's not how I would handle Jaws. I just wouldn't be in the water.
Well, to be fair, Jaws is not just a shark, he's vengeful as fuck.
But wouldn't you laugh if instead of saying we're going to need a bigger boat, he said we're going to need a hippo? Like, that would have been...
We're gonna need to boop him on the nose.
Yeah, imagine, I just keep going back
That
to...
scene with Quint where he gets like, his legs a little bit chomped. Imagine if Quint just went,
Bop. Yeah.
We're gonna need to flip
Let me
him
just
over.
flip you over
We're gonna
25
need to
times.
flip him over.
Yeah, no.
I would have believed
I'm sorry, but if he had answered with we're going to need a hippo and a hippo appeared, the shark could go.
Bring out the boop
Quint
guy.
would still be alive today. The shark could go.
Some
Like,
saltwater crocodiles actually like fight some sharks, some species of shark. Have
That's
you ever
a-
seen a saltwater crocodile? They're humongous.
no, but I've seen a sci-fi movie with something on those lines, like shark versus this versus that versus that
Jesus.
versus that. Let's not go down that.
On a
rabbit hole.
different note, elephants think of us the way we think of kittens and babies.
That's
Aw.
fair. They could probably
They see us as like cute little things.
What can I say?
Well, I see mice as cute, but if they're in my territory, I'm like, get out!
That's pretty much how elephants see mice.
I go running after them with a baseball bat, like, stay out! So anyway.
As far as I know.
You're going to do to a mouse with a baseball bat. You're like a 1930s cartoon character.
Oh,
Like,
totally.
those,
No, totally. Totally. I just suddenly, like, I see a
Tom
cute
and
little
Jerry.
mouse and I'm Negan from The Walking Dead. Like, bam! I'm going to kill it!
Jesus.
So, yes, anyway, I like mice. I am not an advocate of mouse-aside.
Anywho, what's the crime today?
Mouse-aside. Is
Get
it
with
crime
the
time, prime time?
Yeah, there we go.
Okay.
Whatever.
My story today, it's the first of two, so we're going to do this as a double, because the theme here is about misrepresentation. I came across this case and I was really, really saddened to find so little about this case and about the woman at the centre of it that I was kind of just heartbroken, really. So for context, I'll start with my research into the case. Because I'm fairly new to this, I've been trying to find ways to research crimes throughout English history. And believe it or not, it's a lot more difficult than just simply a quick Google search and you find something. I've been very, very, I've come across an excellent resource in unsolvedmurders.co.uk, which I've referred to several times. It's now become my go-to.
Yeah.
It's just a thing. It's become my go-to if I want to look up a person or a victim. I don't like using the word victim because I don't want to belittle them. And I know we can have that whole conversation at some point, but the person involved at the centre of it. So unsolvedmurders.co.uk lists the unsolved murders by date, and you can search different years. And I decided in this case, I thought, right, well, we're in 2025. I wanted to look at a case from exactly 100 years ago. Mm-hmm. So I went back to 1925 and had a quick search. I think all in all, there weren't very many listed unsolved murders.
Oh.
But of the ones that were listed, I happened to settle on a name that I just saw that stood out. And this was a woman, Florence Horton. She died on the 30th of December, 1925, on Goxhill Street in Leeds. She was 17 years old, so no age at all. And she died as a result of an illegal operation.
Oh.
2 women were tried but acquitted. And that's all there was. That's it.
That's all the information they had.
That's all the information they had. Here's where, for me, it gets a little bit heartbreaking, because this is a woman who, like, in my opinion, because of what's been done to her, we should know her name. We should learn, because we should learn from the mistakes of our past. I will get onto that and explain more in context in a second. But what, for me, in my opinion, I believe that she shouldn't just fade out into history and be nothing. Agreed. And when I went to click on the resource to learn more about her, the resource was the National Newspaper Archives. And I clicked on the link to go to the newspaper archives, and story could not be found. And then I tried doing a thorough search using another link that was listed, and I tried using her name. I spent over an hour and a half trying to find this woman on the newspaper archives and of the papers that would have listed her. And long story short, I could not find a single thing.
God.
The only way I could even get access to some newspaper articles going back that far was if I either paid a subscription or paid for the article. One of the websites I visited, I might have listed it here. Let's have a look. Or maybe I didn't. But the long and short of it is, one of the websites I came across actually gave you 3 articles you could look at for free. And then after that, you paid for every single newspaper article you looked at. But it didn't list a price. So automatically, I was instinctively looking at it going, you're not telling me... I watched an old Columbo episode years and years ago where he turned around and he was looking at a menu, and the guy turned and said to him, oh, do you not want to know how much these cost? And he comes back with, if the price doesn't say on the menu, chances are I can't afford it.
True.
And I'm looking at these newspaper articles with that same attitude in my head going, if they're not listing the price, chances are I can't afford it.
Yeah, it's too expensive.
And then I start thinking...
Although sometimes it's because there's not a set price. You basically just, kind of like Wikipedia, you basically just donate what you can.
Yeah.
So they can keep it up.
Yeah.
In the hopes that some of the people that use the website will donate.
And this is where that ground gets so murky. But suffice to say, I switched up my research, not on trying to find her, because that was getting me nowhere. At one point, I was even directed to an Amazon book, which it suggested her name was in this Amazon book with a list of unsolved murders.
Just suggested, not even...
It suggested her name was in this book of Amazon murders. And then I went and clicked on the book, and the book featured an index of all the murders that were in there, and her name wasn't in there. And I was like, so I've been directed to a book that won't
doesn't
even
have
feature it,
her.
that I'm going to have to pay $10.99 for a paperback copy of. And it's not so much the money, it's the fact that, where is she? Where is she in history? Her story does not, you can't get to it.
Unless you pay.
So I switched up my research into trying to build a picture of where she could have been at. So this is what I came up with. So I decided to search basic history of the year that she died to help build a picture of what life would have been like. So back in 1925, most women her age would have worked in domestic service. They would have been maids, they would have been housekeepers, etc. However, by this point, it's entirely possible she could have worked in some kind of clerical role. In the big cities, clerical roles were expanding.
Secretary.
Sitting down at an office desk. So you can already build a picture of this girl either working in service or working in a clerical role. It's a little known, I don't know if you know any of this sort of fact, but the Sex Disqualification Act of 1919 made it easier for women to get jobs as teachers and nurses at that point. However, it was very common practice. There was something called a marriage bar. we're going to get onto a whole.
If you were married, you couldn't work because it would be assumed that you would be at home raising children.
As soon as you got married, you left your job. That is why so many women who continued working in those fields, teaching, nursing, did not marry.
Not only because you were expected to go home and raise children, but also because if you did get pregnant, they basically considered.
Well, you were, and if you were a pariah. If you got pregnant out of wedlock, you were a pariah.
Well, even if you were
in trouble.
Even if you were married, the assumption was you'd eventually get pregnant, and if you were pregnant, then you couldn't work. Well, if you were pregnant, then they would be out of another worker.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah. Well, the employment rate for single women at around 1911, so this is sort of loosely around that time, but close enough. Mm-hmm. The employment rate for single women in 1911 was close to 70%. So 70% of single women were likely to find jobs. Mm-hmm. But for married women, it was only 10.
I have a little question.
Go ahead.
Did it specify like the nature of the surgery, like the back street surgery?
I'm getting to that.
Okay.
I'm going to get to that.
I have a feeling I know what it's going to be.
I expected we would get there eventually.
Yes. So
we're building up to that.
So we are building up to it, and I don't think it's going to come as a surprise, but
probably not.
So a lot of people in the urban areas, particularly in the north, up in Leeds and areas around there, would be classed as working to lower middle class, essentially. In fact, back then, lower middle class wasn't necessarily a thing. You had kind of your working classes who some did well, others did not, but then you went straight into your middle to upper class kind of thing. But the likelihood is if you were 17 and you were working, if you were 17 and not rich...
You were definitely not middle to upper class.
Now, it's impossible to say where her background sits there, unfortunately. But what we can assume is if she lived in a city like Leeds, we can make the assumption that she was probably working class. Mm-hmm. Doesn't necessarily mean it's right. If anybody knows more about her story, absolutely come forward and educate me, because I want to learn. I'm sure we're all in the same boat about this. But for her death, the phrase in the early 20th century, illegal operation, was a very, very common euphemism to refer to an induced abortion. Yeah. Illegal operation literally meant abortion.
Yeah. I mean, just by virtue of the fact that you were having something that was called an illegal operation, you can't have been, rich. Because then you would have just been...
Well, here's where I really went on a journey that absolutely scared and heartbroke me in equal measure. Back then, abortions were illegal for largely religious purposes. Mm-hmm. What is terrifying is that actually abortions mostly are still illegal in this day and age. There are only 4 grounds in this day and age in which you can qualify for an abortion. Today, the Abortion Act of 1967 to 68 made it legal to have an abortion under 4 circumstances. And they rely solely on 2 things: the mental and physical health of the mother and the mental and physical health of the child-to-be. If either of those is in danger, then you have a right to have an abortion. In today's society, 90% of abortions, when they are applied for, so this is statistical fact, 90% of abortions that occur when they are applied for happen on the grounds of the 4th rule, which is it is too dangerous for the mother's mental health. She is in no position to look after that child. That is what 90% of abortions cover, legal abortions. However, because a mother's mental health can be varied,
of course,
we obviously know that we're in a society where at the moment at least there's some element of choice.
For the most part, yeah.
Does that make sense?
For the most part, that ruling, it feels like it can, maybe not when it was written, But I feel like nowadays it can pretty much be used as
a reason.
As anything goes.
So
Thankfully we live in the UK and not some other places.
we will, yeah. I'm not even going to touch that subject with a barge pole. I'm going to, but
yeah, let's quickly move on.
Let's deviate. But back then there was no access to birth control methods, even though. Actually, I referred in another podcast to contraception, such as back then sheep's bladders. Mm-hmm. They were physical methods of birth control. They just were not.
I feel like this is a subject that's going to keep coming.
100%. Sorry, people, but got to put a hood on it anyway. Anyway, I digress. I apologise for that last statement if it scared people or upset them. But.
I'm scared.
So you should be.
They shouldn't be listening to this podcast if that scares them.
So what we come to is, here's a 17-year-old girl who is clearly in trouble. Mm-hmm. Not to use the euphemism, but she is in trouble. If she was single and pregnant, she could easily have been married. Again, I can't build up a picture of her without.
Yeah.
But at 17...
She could have been hiding the fact that she was married.
Yeah, so it might be worth, while we're here...
I don't know why, but this is very much reminding me of an Inspector Calls. But not in the fact that it's like something she's been hard done by a certain family, but in the fact that we can make these assumptions because this has probably happened quite often, and this is still,
Well, look at an Inspector
Guys,
Calls.
go watch an Inspector Calls. It's such a good movie. And read the book. It's such a good book. I love it.
It's one of the biggest moral explorations in terms of a play, because it's written as a stage
Not to
play.
mention an exploration of how ridiculous some upper class citizens
It's a class.
could have been.
It's a class dissection. It's a classist dissection. Social class dissection. It's a moral journey. It encompasses all of the above and more.
But I remember when I was reading it, the fact that Eva Smith had multiple names was almost like a sort of allegory for the fact that it's just...
It could be anyone.
It's anyone, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think this is what this is reminding me of.
Yeah.
Did it specify her name in the report, or is she just like an unnamed...
Her name's Florence Horton.
Florence Horton.
Yeah, so...
That's quite like a common sounding name, and I don't know why, it just kind of reminded me of that.
Florence was a popular name back then, yeah.
And the sort of tragedy and the fact that it's just a problem that affected such a large group of people.
Yeah.
And left a large group of people in quite considerable fear.
Well, I'm going to search the almighty internet in a second, and you guys feel free to discuss any thoughts and theories while I'm there, but I'm going to do a quick internet search in a second just to see statistically what the likelihood would have been of her being single at 17, because if I think on it rightly, I mean, at what age did a woman get married? So
I don't think it would have been ridiculously early, but I wouldn't outlaw 17.
No, I wouldn't rule it out.
Watching Inspector Calls.
We should totally watch an Inspector
I
Calls.
feel like that would get me in the true crime sort of mood.
Oh, 100%. It's such a good movie.
It's great.
So in 1925, the average age for a woman to get married was around 21 in the United States and 22 in Britain.
So it's less likely that she would have been married, but it's not completely ruled out.
No, but we're building, literally trying to build a picture of this woman based on facts we know from the time. So
the likelihood is that she was single.
So that would have resulted in a massive scandal. Whether she was rich or poor, that would have resulted in a massive scandal. At worst, if she was working class, that would have resulted in her living in doss houses, she would have been in serious trouble.
Likely kicked out by her family.
100% disowned and everything. So she obviously decided she needed to have this illegal operation
which wouldn't have been done lightly, I don't think.
No, and back then it was more likely these operations were performed by women rather than... Because doctors in their own right, would not, any doctor worth their salt would not have performed, doing their job properly, operations like that. It was quacks who did stuff like
Although
that.
I do think there are cases of...
Oh, there will be.
Of...
Because where there's money to be made.
well, not only that, but I think there are actually true crime cases that have been talked about where a doctor has
done
stuff like that.
It kind of makes sense for more illegal stuff to be done by women, because if they aren't like completely formally like medically trained, a dude wouldn't know what he's looking at because he don't have.
Well, there's that, and there's also the very you're talking back then. The sentiment was, I'm only getting another woman to look at my body, because it was kind of a
because otherwise it would be not just frowned upon.
But she's gone to a strange man's house to, that in itself could pose a scandal. So
not just a scandal, it could pose a danger.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, there's all that in the mix. There was nothing about the two women who were tried and acquitted, but they were tried. They were put on trial and acquitted.
Why they were acquitted? That seems like something that they probably
they likely couldn't prove that they were actually involved.
Yeah. So where I find this heartbreaking is there's no knowledge of her. There's no knowledge of who she was, what family she came from, and there's also no knowledge of. It says she died as a result of a legal operation, and in my mind, when I read that, automatically I was like, what happened to her?
It may as well have been like accidental death.
Do you know what I mean?
Written on there, because it's so vague and so... Although it's a specific... Obviously, because of the term used, it creates a specific image of what the death actually was. However, it may as well, for the information that we have on how that came to be...
Yeah.
It may as well have just said accidental death, done, posted, moving on.
So my heart breaks for this woman because she was forced into a situation where she lost her life, and we don't even know the how, let alone the why. We don't even know anything about her. So at what point do we look at it and go, this is wrong? We should know what happened to her. At the very least, if we don't know more about her, at what point do we go, why don't we know more? Like it's so I know there are billions of people in the world, and there have been billions of people across time
before us, and there will be more after us.
But I found it sad that we can have a website that lists what happened to her, but if it wasn't for them, I would not know she existed at all.
Yeah,
and that is, it's also opened my eyes in terms of abortion and how we see abortion, in terms of she did this, she must have been desperate. This poor woman must have been so desperate. Well, that's
the thing, is something tangible nowadays, and you can do it relatively safely. Obviously, there's some risks, as there is with everything. There's risks to pregnancy and birth.
Yeah.
So, there's risks like with everything, but back then it wouldn't... This idea that it was something easily accessible would be laughable, because it was just it was life or death. And yes, you could die from pregnancy and you could die from birth, but this was so much more tangible. Death.
This could have been prevented. Like the way I look at it, this could have been. If I know, once you get pregnant, in those days, it was pretty much you got pregnant or nothing. But it breaks my heart to think that the attitude was such back then that...
Because there were no other options. Because there were no other options, this was
it.
Whereas if it had been legal... there could have maybe been some relatives. I know back then technology hadn't advanced as far as it has today.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that if it had been legalized, it would have been... She could have done it in a much more comfortable, safe
But even
way.
if so, for me, there's more to it than that. It's kind of like she should not have been in a position where her only choices were have this baby and no one wants to support you because even to your own family, you're dead to them, or don't have this baby.
Yeah.
And I think that's more what I'm driving at, is that she should not have been
Well, I
put in a
think
position
even
where
I think
that's
even
the choice
back
she had to
then,
make.
I think even back then there were other options. See above the foundling wheel.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that. I mean, again, birth came with its own set of risks.
Yeah.
And I think it would be difficult to judge anyone for making that choice, I guess.
I think it's nice that we're having this conversation about Florence, because I think essentially what I felt was that she was robbed of a
Story.
She was robbed of a story. There's no representation of her. She was robbed of everything. She was robbed of her. Do you want to be blunt? Whether she did through conscious choice or whether some guy attacked her, we're never going to know.
No.
But she was robbed of her maidenhood. She was robbed of her reputation. She was robbed of her life. She was robbed of her story. She's robbed of everything.
I think that's what pisses me off the most, and I don't want to make this too gendered, and I don't want to sound like a pygmy. But you know who hasn't been mentioned this entire time?
The dude. He doesn't exist.
Gives her a kid, ditches her, leaves her to go get an illegal operation, and then she dies and he doesn't even come forward to tell us story.
He likely doesn't even know.
Exactly.
That's
pisses me off.
But again.
Just take some form of responsibility.
Again, like you're saying all the right things there, but how do we know? Because again, we know so little of this story.
That's what I mean.
Know?
He might not even know.
He might not. He and her might have had a little bit of a fling, and then the next thing you know, he's gone off and living his life and whatever you. And she's carrying the consequences, and it's kind of like.
Why, for me, abortion should always be made legal and safe for those that need it.
Exactly.
The rule of law is there for the minorities that, you know, might be overlooked if the rule of law wasn't there.
Yeah.
100%.
I mean, I know what my opinion is on it. I do believe it's a woman's body and a woman's choice. I've said it now,
of course.
So I can't. I'm not.
Of course.
I'm not backing down on it, people. Just
And in
because
case that you didn't think this was the kind of podcast that feels that way, I think we all agree. So if you don't, this might not be the podcast for you.
Yeah, I will never, ever, 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 ever judge another woman for what she has to do in those circumstances.
Absolutely not.
Because that is, I as a person, I try to have some kind of human empathy there for somebody going through a situation. So yeah, as far as I'm concerned, we should always be in a society that when a woman is going through this, when a person is going through this, we try not to be like, right, well, you can't have that, or you can't do this, or, you know, the support should always be there, whatever the choice is made.
But it's also the fact that they should have a voice. They should
100%.
be able to, we should be able to hear their story, and the fact that this relative unknown had this happen to them, and God knows if her family even ever found out how she died or where she ended up. They may not even have kicked her out. They may have wanted to be involved and in her life, and she just sort of made the choice to disappear, and who knows?
Yeah.
There could be a million possibilities, and that's the problem, is that.
Well, for part one of this episode, Florence Horton, I really hope I've given you some kind of voice this week.
Yeah.
Because history has not done you kind. It's done the dirty. On top of everything else doing the dirty, yeah, you know, you had some crap to deal with in life, then I kind of hope that you got some, like, this is to give you a name.
That's the importance of sharing stories like this, is that people that might not have had a chance to be, you know, remembered, have their stories shared with empathy and hopefully some tact.
That's part of the reason why I wanted the British part of the stories, at least, because I'm sorry, but there's lack of information about the stories in Portugal, at least for me so far.
On this side of the thing, on this side of the sea, on this side of the ocean.
I wanted the British side to be relative unknowns. Not necessarily, that doesn't mean that we won't eventually maybe broach the subject of like more well-known cases. That will be Sarah's choice, but
there is definitely one I will cover in the future because it brings up an interesting topical discussion on prisoners' rights, but we will not go any further than that at this moment. Yep.
That's gonna be
I'm coming out with the big guns at some point, so yeah.
But at least for the time being, I wanted it to be relatively unknowns, because the big cases have been covered and they've been covered well.
to death.
And
Because we're true to that.
but these lesser known ones also deserve to be talked about and discussed and have their story told.
They do.
And maybe our voices aren't the best, but they're the voices that you have.
Yeah. I think I wouldn't exactly be grateful, but this is something. This would mean something to me if I died mysteriously. If
True.
3 people in a living, recording studio.
I'd want my story to be told,
Yeah.
So would I.
even by 3 strangers.
So would I. So,
Scary
and if
thing.
just one person's heard it,
True.
you would like to think that's something.
Well, we've heard it, so.
Yeah.
There we go. On to
Alrighty.
round 2.
On that note, enjoy next week's episode. It'll be my turn to tell it. And we have been true to death, and we'll see you next week.
See ya.
Hopefully we've also been entertaining.